All right. Well, hello and welcome into another Front Office Sports webinar. Really excited about the next hour of programming we have for everyone here. As you guys all jump into the chat and as we go through some quick introductions, we'd love for you all to drop your name, title, company, and the sporting event you are going to go to once the pandemic subsides. I know we're all excited about that, so feel free to do that. Say hello. Again, I'm Adam White, CEO of Front Office Sports, and really excited to welcome you into today's webinar, How the PGA Tour Drives Digital Engagement, presented by our friends over at ix.co. Next 45 minutes is going to be a great discussion. Phil and Scott go way back, so they probably are going to have a ton of awesome anecdotes and notes to share with all of you guys, and we hope that you jump in with a bunch of questions. If you do have questions, make sure you add them into the questions tab. We will try to get to them throughout the next hour or so. There will be a 15-minute dedicated Q&A section at the end of the hour, and making sure that overall that course of that time will be integrating in your questions as applicable. So really excited to have you guys in. There's going to be a ton of information shared, ton of great knowledge dropped, and we're excited to share this with you. And thanks again to IX for presenting it and helping us bring this to life. So I'm going to first off introduce everyone who is kind of taking part here, and Phil and Scott. Let them say a few words about themselves, and then we'll jump right in. So I'm really excited to have both Phil and Scott with us. So Phil, Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer of ix.co.
Yeah. Hey, Adam. Hey, everyone. It's good to meet you all. I've been with IX now. We were formerly on the gun, but I've been there 6 years. Before that, I've been in the sports and entertainment business in total about 20 years. I have a background in digital technology and business. And I've been fortunate to know Scott for most of my 20 years in sports and entertainment. I think, as you all know, InfrontX or ix.co, we engage with many tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 sports properties, and we partner with them to build their digital experiences. So we partnered with Scott for quite a while, and hopefully we can bring you some good insights and information today.
Awesome. Excited to have you, Phil, and thanks for joining in. And then tossing it over to Scott Gutterman, Senior Vice President, Digital Operations for the PGA Tour.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here this afternoon. And Adam, thanks so much for having both Phil and I here. So I'm Scott Gutterman. I oversee the digital technology and broadcast technologies at the PGA Tour. Basically, everything that we do to get our great events and our great players out to our fans. I've been at the tour now for 15 years, almost actually 16 years. And similar to Phil, I've been in the sports and entertainment space now for a little over 20 years as well. And a lot of those have been with projects with Phil throughout that time. And we've been partnered now with IX since, 2012, when we brought our digital business in-house. And IX has been a great partner in managing our technical stack, developing all of our web properties, and a number of other efforts that we've undertaken, and we've been very happy to have them as part of everything we've done to evolve the PGA Tour experience over the past several years.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you both and excited to get into this conversation. But before we do, I just want to set the tone and have a table stakes conversation here. And I'm going to toss this over to you, Scott. So before we get into this, would love for you to just briefly explain the difference between the PGA Tour, USGA, and PGA of America, just so everyone's aligned as we go through these conversations.
Sure. Yeah, that's no problem. So I work for the PGA Tour. In golf, there are several governing bodies or several entities that run the majority of the golf throughout the world. So the PGA Tour does the week in and week out events. We have the many big events. One of which is this week is at Concession, and so we'll be playing there, and then we'll be going to Bay Hill next week, the week after, and then we're here in Jacksonville at the Players Championship, one of our marquee events. So along with the PGA Tour, there's the PGA of America, who oversees the PGA Championship, the Ryder Cup with the RNA. In Europe, and they also, their mission is to support the teaching professionals throughout the year. The USGA, our good friends at the USGA, run the US Open and several other events throughout the year. And then additionally, we have the RNA, who runs the Open Championship over in Europe. And then, of course, Augusta National, who runs the Masters. All of our teams know each other very well and work very well together. And of course, also in golf, we have the European Tour, who runs a tour over in Europe and Asia and Africa throughout the year, and they're good partners with us. We've recently entered a relationship with them on the production side. And then we have the LPGA as well too, and the LPGA is the women's golf tour run around the world all throughout the year. Again, good friends there. We all work very closely together. It's been one of my greater privileges in golf to get to know everybody at these events. And over the years, we've grown to work together to help each other out throughout the entire year.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Well, let's jump in. Obviously, as you guys noted, you guys have been speaking, or you guys have been in a relationship, not obviously personally, but professionally for almost 2 decades, right? 10 years or so at the IX and the tour. Would love to get an understanding for you guys of how that relationship has kind of evolved and how you guys have changed to meet the changing demands of fans and consumers.
Sure. I mean, I guess I can start a little bit with some background and how we got to working with IX. About in 2012, prior to 2012, the PGA Tour ran its digital properties in joint ventures. The most recent had been with Turner Sports, which is actually where Phil and I used to work together and work together on the PGA Tour relationship at that time. And then prior to that, when I first joined the PGA Tour in 2005, we had a similar joint venture with CBS Sports. But back in 2012, when our digital rights deals were ending, we made the decision. Then Commissioner Fincham, the executive team, made a decision and came to the digital team and said, "Hey, we need to bring this in house because what we had wanted to have happen is that digital was becoming part of everything that the tour does. It wasn't just running a website, social media platforms, but it was supporting our titles and our sponsors. It was supporting our players, and really was something that had to be taken in house for us to continue to grow and evolve that." So with that, we went out and looked at many different firms to help us out. We looked at a lot of talented places, but in the end, we ended up choosing several firms, several of the systems integrators to work with us at the time. And at the time, they were Omnicom, but now IX. So we chose IX, and so that to help us out in 2012 and bring the properties into the PGA Tour. And really, we were building everything from scratch. We didn't have an infrastructure. We didn't have an in-house data center to work with that would support us. So we brought everything in-house. We actually had a little bit less than a year to do it, and we brought it in-house. We were the first portion of the tour that actually went into the cloud, and we went on to AWS at the time. We're still on AWS now. And we had IX work with us as one of our main systems integrators to help educate us on where we needed to go to help us build out our, and meet our goals, and to really help us build a platform that we could build on then. So really what we did is we transitioned the existing site in-house. Then we built a new site that launched a few months later, and really restarted the PGA Tour business at that point. And so this was at the beginning of a lot of different change in technology at the time, so we had to be prepared for it. We actually had built responsive platforms, knowing that we would be serving mostly on phones in the very near future, which is definitively happened for all of us, and really begin to grow our infrastructure to support all the initiatives that would grow throughout the year. So, when we started in 2012, there was no over-the-top streaming service. We were just streaming once a year. So we worked on that came along after a few years. We used to have to just do live at 17 at the time, and then really continuing to support the development of mobile platforms has really become one of the key aspects of what we've done. And then most importantly for us, and really one of the areas that IX has been brought a significant expertise, and frankly the thing that was most important in the evaluation for me is that in dealing with tour data, it's not, I used to work in financial services before I got into media and entertainment, and I would say that the amount of data that we have to manage and share and get to our fans is very equivalent in speed and approach to what has to happen in financial services. We have 100 to 150 acres every week. We have 18 fields of play. We have up to three groups, sometimes more groups of players on each hole. And that's a lot of data that has to come in and be presented to our fans across a variety of platforms. And I needed a reliable partner to help us not only grow where that was at the time, but know that we were going to be doing. We only had 3 tours at the time. Now we're managing 6 tours across we have the PGA Tour Champions, the Korn Ferry Tour, and then we have 3 international tours. We have PGA Tour Latino America, PGA Tour Canada, and PGA Tour China. And there are weeks where we have 6 tours having 6 events. and we have to be able to just distribute all that data. And so that's really the one of the expertise areas for the IX team. So that's what we really count on Phil and team for right now.
Yeah, I think it's worth emphasizing too, Adam, over the years, not just the change in the technology that we've had to all deal with, but our relationship, I think, has matured. As Scott mentioned initially, it was get this thing up and running and let's make sure we can at least serve the fans. And then over time, it's become much more of a, it's kind of a cliche word, but much more of a partnership. We're not viewed so much as a vendor, but more as a trusted partner. We work together, we gestate ideas, we plan things, we set strategies, and then we execute on them together. And I think that's what a lot of your audience here needs to kind of think about. Trying to do it on your own can be really tough these days when things are changing so quickly. You partner with a company like ours or another, and what you get is a perspective from many different clients that we work with. We're able to synthesize all of that together into insights and direction. And I think that's been able to help Scott as we've gone forward too. And in fact, Scott, one of the things it's probably worth sharing with the audience is some of the work you've been doing recently. You went out, you surveyed your fans, you have a tremendous fan council. I think it's 5,000 plus people that you go out to regularly. So when we talk about digital engagement, the tour team does a great job of getting out there and finding out what its fans are wanting, and then we'll create prototypes, we'll create ideas, we'll bounce it off them. It's very much like a product evolution process. But I know, Scott, recently you did some real strategic thinking. Here we are 7 years in, technology's changed, the devices have changed, the ubiquity has changed. What are you guys, I mean, I kind of know, but I think it'd be worth you sharing with others. What have you learned? What are you thinking going forward based on what you found out for the next 3 to 5 years, maybe?
Yeah. And where Phil's right, we really are right now going through a project literally called Project Evolution internally. And it's really about, all right, we've been on these platforms, we have this infrastructure, we've evolved it and we've grown it over the last 5 or 6 years. We're getting ready to go into new rights agreements at the end of this year with ESPN Plus, with NBC, CBS, and Golf Channel. And so what are we doing to help with the growth of our platforms, the growth of where our fans are going, and what have we learned? And a lot of that evolution process has been really about us doing it, looking at ourselves internally, doing internal concepting, and then taking those back to the fan council, and running the fan council through studies and actually looking at what are the ideas that we think will float to the top. And first and foremost for us will be to maintain kind of our leadership space and scoring and scoring presentation, which is core to what all golf fans want to see. But the reality of it is that Phil and I joke, like, I got to the tour in 2005. The only thing I was responsible for really at the time was one website. And probably the biggest shift of everything now, here in 2021 is where it used to be, you come to one place to get the information that you need and that was it. Now it's totally turned around. It's really about what does the consumer want to consume? When do they want to consume it? It's really about personalization. It's really about allowing a fan, or somebody that's core to following what we do, have the experience and follow the people that they want to follow. And that's what we're hearing from our fan councils. Like, yes, I still want to know kind of what the big stories of the day are, but I want to be able to consume the tour event in the way that I want to consume the tour event. And we want to be able to do that and provide context. And we've got great tools internally. We've got our shot link system. They capture 70 data points on every ball struck on the PGA Tour, and that allows us to craft all kinds of experiences. So I think what you'll see coming out of this evolution process, or I know what you'll see coming out of this evolution process, is really us continuing to diversify the way that the fans consume the PGA Tour and get in touch with our players. And so, experiences that we have now, like we have our core leaderboards for our core fans. We have a great product in TourCast, which allows us, it's basically, and we built this with IX and ARL, and it allows fans to see in 3D where every single shot is hit on the course at any given time, and it brings along the highlights from most of those shots in the weeks that we have PGA Tour Live. We have another product which is essentially a data streaming product called Tour Pulse, that's built on AI and ML, that allows you to customize it so that you can follow all of Rory McIlroy's shots, in a linear fashion and get all of his highlights and things like that. So, and for us, this continues to grow. We're going to be going stronger into voice activated platforms. How do we really begin to leverage those types of experiences? But again, what it'll all come down to for us in the future is continuing to address the diversification and the growth of the way fans consume that sports, whether that's on our owned and operated platforms, on social platforms, or in other places.
It's interesting, Scott. What that brings to mind for me too is another kind of trend we're seeing with our clients and a lot of sports brands now, which is that desire to increase their reach significantly on a global basis. And you've done several media deals, in the last few years to enable that. And at the same time, we've chatted about kind of a concept we chatted about 15 years ago, which was the old widget concept, of providing widgets that then our broadcasters and our media companies, our media partners could take and distribute. And in essence, it's a white label distribution of our content. And we are starting to see that more and more across our clients now, is a desire to do that, especially, for example, in Europe, where we have multiple, rights holders and et cetera, because of the different territories. Maybe, Scott, if you can talk to a little more about your distribution deals, your deal with Golf TV and Discovery, your national deal. And then maybe after that, we can chat a little about that, how that ties into data and one of the hot topics today, which is gaming/wagering on a global basis. Maybe we can go there with some of that.
Sure. So our deals right now outside the U.S. are with our rights basically outside the U.S. are with Discovery and Discovery Golf, and so great team with Alex Kaplan and Vishal Parikh and Jeff Giels, a number of other folks, and that Discovery Golf basically encompasses our rights deals and the product that they've created outside with in conjunction with us called Golf TV, that carries those rights as well as the rights to several other golf entities outside the United States. In addition, Golf Digest is part of that package as well too. So Chris Reynolds and team and the folks at Golf Digest. So we all really work together now. It's something that we've started over the last now I think it's been 3 years, almost 3 years now, that we've all been working together. So it's been really exciting to watch that platform develop. As a matter of fact, the Vishal and team just rolled out an entirely new look and feel for the Golf TV platform, which is being very well received. And so it really enables us to, the Golf TV team really enables us to kind of look at every region and decide how we want to address that region and deliver content to that region. So that's been a big part of what we've been doing. And our teams try to work together wherever we can. They're working off the same infrastructures and in some cases that we use together. So that really helps us leverage kind of the work that we're doing together, which is something that's been very beneficial to the tour as well.
Yeah, as we think through, part of what we've done is we built products together. We've always considered the future distribution needs of them. So rather than just building them custom, we have, as you know, because we decided to kind of create them almost in a white label perspective. And I think we're even going down the road towards providing some of those things almost as a service to your distributors and your rights holders, right?
Yeah, and that's an area that we'll be getting into more and more. I think that the widgets conversation is a really good one. I think as Android has had widgets on the phone on the platform, and then iOS rolling that out this past year, I think we're seeing greater demand. Again, diversification for the way that people want content integrated into their lives and what they look at every day when they're looking at their phone. So I think you'll see stuff like that there as well. And then I think, we look at things like, we have another group entirely internally that's responsible for distribution of, our data and our data rights. And I think that'll kind of segue into our sports betting deals. But we syndicate all of that data out, and people create experiences on that too. Some of it, in some cases, are partners where we're delivering scoring data to ESPN and Golf Channel and those types of entities. Others of it, like our most recent deal with IMG, which involves our sports betting over the last couple of years, where we're outside the U.S. and inside the U.S. We're delivering them the data that's being used by the betting houses and our official betting operators to do that. So we have to continue to build our infrastructure in a way to provide those services. But the reality is what people are asking us for now is not only just the data and the scoring, but they're asking us, you need the content to drive context and interest around that, right? So, I think last week it was, I believe it was PointsBet and WSC, who we work with internally, who automatically clips all of our data, announced something that we've been working on with them together, which is, if you place a bet through PointsBet, on Rory, to win the event, then what you'll get at the end of the day through our WSC infrastructure is the ability to get that highlights of, the highlights of on that bet that you placed, right? And so for sports betting, that's really, it's an opportunity to really provide content, because I don't only want, for the record, I don't bet on golf, but when I bet on other things, or if I were to bet on other things, I want to see the touchdown, right? I want to see the long putt. I want to see, that great goal, in a soccer match, along with getting rewarded, right? So those are things that I think why we have to, our partners like IMG are really coming to us and creating experiences that are more than just delivery of the data now.
Yeah. Adam, I see you've got some questions coming in. I don't know if you
we do have
want
some
to address
questions.
those.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay.
there was a couple in here. I think the one that you guys are going to get here, I think is from a betting standpoint, which I think is really interesting. And I think this has come up for other people who may not want betting involved with broadcasts. The question from Scott comes in and says, can you speak a bit about how you engage users who want to participate in betting or predictive gaming while not alienating those who don't want this new intrusion into how they watch golf?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It was one of the first questions that we asked ourselves when we started looking into how are we going to do this. So the for us internally right now, it's our rule of thumb right now is we aren't going to put odds or betting in core places of the platform by default. If fans want to see it, we'll make it available. But we have a new odds leaderboard that's available, but it's a step away or a button away from the main leaderboard. And some other things we'll be doing, same thing in Tourcast. It's kind of a button away. You kind of have to ask for it. So our rule of thumb right now is let's let people go and find it. Let's tell them about it. But let's not disrupt. There's even though there's a lot of people that want to place bets and understand the odds, there's a lot of people that just want to consume golf. So again, for us, it's like opt-in or one button away, and we'll promote to it.
Well, and the beauty is too, Adam, I think today, because you can have a multi-channel experience around any event, whether you do it as a second channel on TV, whether you do it like NBC did with Peacock, you can bring that whole betcast concept, and it's a separate production that, as Scott said, you can join and subscribe to if you wish to, and get that experience. And I think we're going to see that concept extended, by the way, beyond betting to other concepts as too. Meaning, if you want this, you can go there to get it in there. If you don't,
I think Phil, I think some very good examples of that actually. ESPN kind of led the way with the megacasts, like around national championships, where they have five channels or 5 networks going and presenting different views of the same game. So I think they're doing that. I think what the CBS team did around the wild card game with. Which was not only entertaining, but the Nickelodeon version of the wild card game versus the non-wild card game. Same thing for us. I think we're
going to see slime on the golf course, is what you're saying?
I would love that. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe someday.
I mean, I've been to Waste Management Phoenix Open as someone who lives in Arizona, and it's just about as close to having slime on the golf course as you can imagine. Like that's an electric course. It's an electric tournament. So
exactly. That's exactly right. And so, I mean, like for us, it points to what we're doing in a few weeks, which we did for one day last year at the Players before we had to shut the Players down due to the virus. But this year, we're going to be doing Every Shot Live all 4 days at the Players Championship. And so Every Shot Live really for us is every group live. We're the only golf tournament that does this right now. You'll be able to watch every single group for every single hole and every shot that they take throughout the entire day. There'll be 24 groups at the peak in the morning and 24 groups at the peak in the afternoon. We're working with our partners at NBC Sports to present that to everybody. So it's available on the NBC Sports Gold platform, so PGA Tour Live and Every Shot Live. We will show approximately about 8,000 to 10,000 shots every single day. So it'll be somewhere between 30 and 40,000 shots by the end of the weekend. All of those highlights, all of those individual shots will be loaded into Tourcast as they come out. We use a WSC platform to automate. As you can imagine, you can't really have somebody sitting around cutting all of that. So WSC does that for us, and then we use Hawkeye does all the remote. All of the production is remote. So we do have a truck and some people on site. And we're using AWS Elemental encoders to get it offsite out into the cloud. And then the folks at Hawkeye, we have one producer on every single stream that's running the graphics and the scoring. There's only natural audio on the Every Shot live stream, so you'll be able to hear the golfers talking, or you'll be able to hear the sounds from the course. But all of the producers for Every Shot Live are actually in London. And so it's all done remotely. And of course, as a lot of folks in sports have had to do, we've had to cut down on the size and the number of people in our compounds. So even though that was all done remotely the same way last year, we have even more people that will be remote this year doing that. So we're really excited about that, because that, to the point that, come back to the point that Phil's making, is that's kind of our version of a megacast. And you can imagine in the future where we don't have audio over these 24 streams now, but at some point in time, we'll do like what we did with our Twitter multicast back in June, is we'll bring on different personalities for every stream. So you could be watching a group of players and maybe their coaches are talking over the stream, or we could be bringing celebrities. We've had Darius Rucker, we've had other people come in and provide commentary. And what we don't want them to do is, and what we'll want them to do in this, is not try to be Dan Hicks or Jim Nantz. We want them to be present themselves and present a different point of view. So we think Every Shot Live is the future of where we're going to be. We hope in 3 to 5 years time that maybe every event is an Every Shot Live event, and that's the norm within golf. We've got some technology and cost things to work out to make it work at every event, but that's definitely in our plans.
I think it's worth saying too, Adam, that with TikTok and Twitch and everything else going on now, different platforms with dropping different types of content in, and other kind of non-official commentators and participants, I think the whole betting stream will find many avenues that people can engage in without it infringing on those who really don't want to participate or don't want to interact. I think it's pretty exciting actually to see all the different creative ways people are doing this. I see you've got some good questions in there too. Heather's got a good one.
Yeah, we can jump into it for sure. Yeah, there's a few more good ones. There's a couple actually relating to the fan council. So I do want to jump back into that. I know you did touch on that, but there was one here in terms of when you are asking the fan council, and how do you meet all of their needs, right? With such a broad demographic, how are you meeting all the needs? And then also, as part of that learnings, what are some of these like aha moments, or some of these data points where you're like, wow, they really want, someone asked about fully mic'd up groups with no announcers, or they really want, a mic on the caddy or a camera on the caddy, right? So what are some of these aha moments you've gotten from the fan council, and how you guys prioritizing, how you kind of approach those?
Yeah, so those are all really good questions. So as Phil mentioned, the fan council is about 5,000 people. We work right now. It used to be run by our digital team. It's actually run by our marketing team now as well too. So it's run really with both of us using it. The way that we use it is we do regular pacing with surveys. Sometimes we do when we have people on site. Sometimes we bring people into hospitality spaces to talk with them, or to show them what we're doing. But mostly right now, it's for obvious reasons we don't have people on site. So mostly right now, it's a lot of surveys and discussion that goes on in the fan council. And really, what we try to do is come up with a program on a regular basis for fan council of questions to ask for them. It's typically based on, if it's a marketing team, they may be looking at a campaign that they're putting together. If it's one of our teams, we're looking at products. We may be looking at a type of content that we're going to build out, and we try to ask them particular questions to do it. We don't usually go out to all 5,000 at the same time. We haven't broken up into groups, so we may be looking for a core fan or a casual fan point of view on things. So we'll try to break it up that way as well too. And usually, what we'll get back is, sometimes we'll get back sometimes we get back validation of the ideas. We're like, all right, let's go do that. Sometimes we get back ideas, and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to look at that. So, this point, like this point of how do we put odds and sports betting in front of people? It's interesting. I don't know if the other sports have seen this or not, but we thought there would be a larger audience for sports betting. Would want to see all the odds and everything integrated and everything else, but it was very clear actually what the point that was made, and which is why we took the position that we did, is like, look, people want to be able to have their experience golf and, do betting separately. So those are some of the things that we do. I'm trying to think of some of the other, I can't think off the top of my head some of the other moments, but it's I can tell you the thing that's been a world of difference. Like, and the NASCAR team does something very similar. We actually learned from the NASCAR team a few years back that they were doing this and took on the same practice with the fan council. And so it's been very helpful for us. I mean, and rightfully so. Like, I've always been a believer, and all the way up to our commissioner, what we do is fan first. We feel like if we accomplish what we're supposed to do as fan first, then everything else will follow behind that. The success will come behind that. So that's really and that's really been reinforced through what we do with the fan council.
Yeah, it's interesting, Adam. I think more and more sports brands need to take the approach of product companies in a way, which is what product companies call customer development or customer discovery. I think the fan development, fan discovery aspect is critical as we're rolling out new features. It's intriguing. I'm looking at the questions and I do see one. I think it's interesting, Scott, this is kind of puts you on the spot a bit, but Heather was asking for organizations who might be running on limited resources. What do you feel is the number one fan engagement tool, either back end or customer fan facing? So if you had very limited budgets, not just limited budgets like you have, but what would be that number one thing that you would put your money on? I think that's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. I think you have to be, I think you have to be really good at what you're supposed to be really good at doing. Like, you have to be able to be good at your core. If you can't stretch far, that to me is the thing. Like, if we don't deliver scoring, nothing else really works for us. So I think that's the thing that we have to do. I think you have to be very careful on a limited budget. And frankly, all of us have to be careful of this, even with nobody has an unlimited budget. So we all have finite budgets, but we also have to be very mindful. And this actually just came up a few minutes ago about prioritization, and really about, you can't do everything. And this is, look, everybody, there's a million great ideas every day that get put in front of us, but you can't do everything. And you really have to focus on, you have to find the things that are focused on. So, if I had a little bit of extra money beyond scoring, I'd probably be testing a few things to see what the reaction would be. And that would probably include, something for our owned and operated platforms, and then something that would be probably geared towards a distributed platform or a social platform, right? Right now, Instagram is like a really high performing platform for us. So, we tell our teams, if you have a little extra money, a little extra effort, like, let's make sure that we're doing the right content for the right platforms. I think that's the other part of it too, is how you can't, these days, in the beginning of social media, you could assume that you would put everything everywhere that you would do on the different platforms. You can't do that anymore. That stopped several years ago. So again, I think if I had a little extra money, producing really good content, and another term that we use a lot here internally that we've gotten better at over the last couple of years is, and look at really good storytelling, right? Because you'll hear me say context all the time, but what I'm really talking about is storytelling. Like, how do we tell the story around what happened? So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I came into media and sports and entertainment from different industries, and one that I was in prior to this was with a privately held company, and we were very diligent about new ventures we got into. We were very diligent about clearly determining value creation. And I think, to answer Heather's question, when I got into sports and entertainment and media, one thing I noticed was really a lack of a strong discipline around that. Not many sports brands and properties really had a good process for determining the true value that was created. And frankly, over the last 20 years, I've just seen this reinforced. We'll often work with clients and they'll have several priorities. We'll ask them to set the priorities, and we find it's more subjective than objective. So my answer to Heather would be, either develop a discipline or find a partner who can help you follow a discipline of really being honest with yourself and rigorous about setting out what the value is you're going to get from any of those engagement tools, even if it's as broad as reach and engagement, specifically how much and how are you going to get it, and measure progress on that. And if it didn't work, adjust it and try something else. Very
Exactly.
good product disciplines. I just see, in general, a lack of that in the industry. So I think we need to have more of that.
Awesome. Yeah, we can keep rolling through some questions. I have some other questions. We got a ton in the chat, so whatever you guys are game for. Happy to kind of jump in.
Yeah, I would suggest just going through the chat questions because I do see a lot
Yeah.
of them in there. And,
Cool.
I have other topics that I think Scott and I would like to share with the audience, but I think they're going to get drawn out with the questions. I love this feature of people being able to prioritize and vote on a chat question so we know which ones. Yeah. So I would go
exactly. It's
against some
great.
of those, Adam.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, I guess this has obviously been a broader conversation with the Super Bowl and a lot of the conversations around that ratings, but with the new distribution methods, and this is from Stephanie, and streams, how will this impact viewer measurement, which has just traditionally been linear ratings?
Oh, that's a really good question. I wish I had an answer for it. It's we've seen a lot of people tackle this. The way that we're approaching it internally is we're using an overused term, but we use it internally is engagements, right? And that you have to define what an engagement is. And so that's actually an ongoing conversation all the time. So, that's really taken from the social media aspect of, a like, or a view or, or things like that. So, the engagements that we start with are those that are kind of core to social media. And then we brought them into our owned and operated platforms, right? So, somebody that reads a story, somebody who favorites a player, like on our leaderboard, you can favorite a player. We found that, if we can get people to favorite a player, that they're 10 times more likely to return on a regular basis. So those types of engagements are, in fact, highly valuable to us, but they're highly valuable to our sponsors because they know that that people are coming back to these platforms. And then there's unique ones like the favoriting a player in Tourcast, how many people actually view a hole in Tourcast, or how many holes they view in Tourcast. And in our Tour Pulse product, it's how many cards do they view in that. So we're constantly adjusting and tuning it, and we have an internal report that actually summarizes that's put together by our marketing and our fan engagement teams. That goes out weekly, and it's something that we've adopted to and started to put in front of our sponsors and understand it. Now, the challenge here, of course, is that it's not Nielsen or ComScore or Site Catalyst from Adobe or Google Analytics. So it's not a third party term, but you can, if you take the what we measure as engagements and you trend that against what these other tools are, it's basically in addition to that information. What's going to happen? Reality is everything is going to be digital. I don't know. You can see in the industry, everybody's talking about Nielsen and talking about other measurement and how that's going to work. I think that's beginning to play itself out as cord cutting and other activities that are literally shifting away from broadcast to air, digital or to digital. So it's still shift's still got to happen.
It's interesting. The question itself, just the concept of a viewer and viewer measurement is somewhat being superseded today, because a viewer isn't a viewer isn't a viewer. What we're finding in the digital world, and we're finding them from true engagement, and we talk about fans and casual fans and avid fans, but what we do find with digital is that we're able to get far more insight into what people are watching, how frequently, for how long, et cetera, and from that we can figure out what kind of a engagement, what kind of a fan they are, and in return we can present experiences that speak to them more. And I think this whole measurement, what we've noticed, there was a question in there about sponsorships, and as with all questions, the answer usually starts with "it depends," but a lot of these things are driven by the ability to determine how much this person identifies with your brand, with your sport. Are you a lifestyle brand for this individual? And if so, what more can you bring to them to reinforce that? And I think what we're seeing today is a real demand from digital for those very specific numbers, so we can start to classify at least the different types of viewer that we have, and then serve those to different audiences and different sponsors in different ways. I think everybody's been wrestling that with for at least 10 years, and will continue to wrestle with it for a few more. But now that we see some technologies out there, watermarking and tracking video and length of engagement, I think we're going to have a different answer to that whole viewer measurement thing pretty quickly.
Awesome. There's a couple questions that are actually in the chat still that I think are really, pertinent to the discussion. So I'm going to bring them in here. And Abby asked in the chat, how are you using digital content? This plays off greatly what Phil was just talking about. How are you using digital content and sponsorship to target groups outside of your normal demographics? And then as part of that, there was a significant increase in public golf rounds during COVID. Is the PGA planning on capitalizing on this trend? And if so, how?
So yes, we are definitely capitalizing. We've definitely been watching that. I'd say I've actually been playing more golf in the past year than I've probably played normally as well. I mean, it's just, I think we're very fortunate to be a sport where you can get outside and be socially distanced and still be able to play, and everybody can be very be very reasonably safe. So we've all been tracking what's been going on, and yes, there are a number of things that are in the works around the industry, around continuing to build on that that I can't go into quite yet, but you'll see soon. And so I think that's it. I think it's just been great. Like, I mean, courses that I normally could call up on a Tuesday or Wednesday to make a tee time early in the morning, I have to call 2 weeks ahead of time. It makes me really happy as somebody who's in the golf industry. As a golfer who wants to do it, set up a tee time at short notice, sometimes I'm like, hey, what's going on? But it's really great. And I think the other thing that we've seen, if you look at some of the work that we're doing with the APGA and a few others, is the diversity that of people that are coming into the game and playing the game has been really encouraging. And I think the other thing that you'll see, which we're all excited about, and it's one of these. It's the right way to term this. It's one of the hurdles that I think we've always been trying to overcome, but people have seen it. When we did, we've been doing adventures in golf with Eric Anders Lang on our scratch property. People have realized they don't have to come out and play 18 holes. They can come out and play 9 holes. Going and playing golf at Top Golf, perfectly fine, right? Like we encourage all of that, and you're starting to see even some venues like here in Jacksonville. They just opened up a place over by the TPC Sawgrass called the Yards, which is just a par. I think I haven't played there yet, but 12. It's basically a 12-hole course. They're all par 3s, and it's really built around, like, you can go to Top Golf, and Top Golf's great fun, and you can hit into the targets. I've been many times, but you can go to the Yards and you can play a quick round of 9 holes on a par 3 course. And you don't even have to worry about how far you're hitting the ball, and those types of things. So I think it's really been encouraging to see that. And then, sorry, Adam, the first part of the question was the first part was using the digital content and sponsorship to target groups outside of your normal demographic. Yeah, so this actually dovetails right into that, which is why I think they're paired together, the questions. So yeah, so it's definitely, we've noticed higher interest. Our digital traffic is up, year over year, not just this year, but it was actually up during the pandemic as we returned. I think and it was largely what was up on our apps, where casual fans come to us is usually on mobile web. And we saw significant increases in mobile web there. So our social teams and our content teams have been gearing some of our content towards broader audiences to broaden that appeal. And that includes us doing things, telling stories about golfers. And we were just telling a story about a hole-in-one that was made by Andrew McGee because he hit into a group in front of him, and it bounced off the foot of one of the guys on the green and went into the hole. And amazing. It's a crazy story. And the way that we told that story is, through animation. And not through and in fact, there's no video of the ball actually going in the hole. We have the broadcast of it, but it happened so quickly and so oddly that nobody actually got the shot. So we actually told that and had Andrew and others involved tell that story to that. So those are ways that we're doing that. And then I think, the other really important aspect of the tour that I think is helping us is that, the tour really has 2 missions. One is to create playing opportunities for our players. But the second, which is just as important, is to give back to the communities in which we live. The tour through January this year has given back $3 billion in charity, probably more than any other sport. And that's very important to us. And the stories that we tell, whether we're working with FedEx and St. Jude, some of you may remember Amy Bockersteady and Gary Woodland. I think it was at the 2018 Waste Management Phoenix Open. And just telling stories of people in the community and the things that they've achieved, and the impact that we've been able to have on their lives as we work with our events to give back so much to those communities and so many different charities in those communities, depending on where we are every week. That those stories, they're really honest and really authentic, because it's really about helping people, and that's really at the core of what we do every week. And I think that that's an important part of helping to bring more fans into our sport.
Adam, there's a question in the questions that's been voted up pretty highly from Matt.
Yeah.
Are there any sort of new, unique sponsorship opportunities on digital that have come about since the pandemic that some of your partners have really enjoyed seeing success from? And I think that's a really interesting question, insofar as one thing we've noticed with many of our clients, for example, and I know Scott and the tour have been doing this, is kind of social and fan engagement around the live event, more so. And it's not just because people are not attending the live event as much, but because people, I think, have a desire to now engage more socially because we're so isolated. And so we're seeing a real uptick and a real demand, both from sports properties themselves and from the sponsors, to create these live event engagement experiences. Scott, I know something we've worked on with you for a couple of years was Tour Pulse, and I know part of your incentive was kind of wanting to bring some of those social platform features to what we're doing. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit too. That might help.
Yeah, so it also goes back to the question about what did we learn from our fans in our Evolution project discussions. And one of the things that we asked them is, like, where are you spending your time during the day when a competition is on, or Saturday or Sunday or Thursday or Friday? And people, as we knew, people were spending their time on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter. But the reason that they were excited about spending a lot of time there is just they were getting a lot more context out of those events. Like, you could see multiple things going on out of those events as the event was developing. So that was like, oh wait, we kind of understood that was going on, but like, that's something we really should be doing on our owned and operated platforms as well. And so that we already had our Tour Pulse product out there, but it kind of reinforced a little bit, okay, here's where we need to go with that. There are some features in Tour Pulse now, which is basically, it is a, I think I've said sometimes it's a little bit of like a Twitter or an Instagram for our owned and operated platforms. You can kind of scroll through, see in a linear sequence what's going on in the event, which, by the way, because of the way that we're spread out over 18 holes, you really can't, even on the leaderboard, sometimes it's hard to tell linear what, in a timeline, what's really happening one after the other. So Tour Pulse is built to do that and provide those cards. And you can look at like the leaders, the people leading in the field, or you can look at a group of players that you define. You can like or clap for certain actions. You can see video highlights. But we aren't where I want to be at on that platform, as Phil knows, and the team, because we're continuing to develop that. I want it to be more visual and a lot closer to kind of what the social experiences are. But I also want to bring in these fan engagement pieces. So, we've talked to companies like LiveLike and a few others about how do we take some of the experiences that they're building. I think LiveLike just launched something with NASCAR and a few other sports. And so how do we begin to bring those into these experiences that we're creating, so that we can have polling, we can have conversation, we can have different types of engagement in that. So I think that's really the future of what we want to do on owned and operated platforms in order to create an environment. And that's what it actually then allows us to take sponsored content or branded content into that environment. Right. So if we're doing if we're doing something about the cut line with Scott's Turf or something like that and mowing, then we can actually inject a card there. Same thing with our official betting operators. Like, we can inject a sports betting oriented stat or sports or an odds card in between shots or between holes that allows it. And that, I think, brings more value to the sponsor and the fan, because it's not an ad. It's a, this is brought to you by points. These odds brought to you by PointsBet. So that Rory has a chance of has just made this birdie, and now he has a much better chance of winning the event. Which is, I think, we're giving you something that's entertaining instead.
Yeah, it's it's interesting. We are getting more demand from a lot of our clients to find these, I'm going to call it rather simple engagement. They're not always simple to create, but from an end user perspective, they appear simple. But we're spending a lot of time now partnering with third parties who've built maybe standalone or somewhat integrated engagement products and dropping them into existing mobile apps and websites and experiences, even on smart devices and TVs that brands already have. But it adds another layer of that interaction and engagement that someone can sponsor or whatever. So we're actually finding a significantly increased demand from clients to quickly bring in third-party products and drop them into these experiences. I mean, the folks at NASCAR that we work with did a great job of this with the Daytona 500, recognizing that they were going to have a reduced attendance live, and in a very short period, 6 weeks, adding in these engagement products, which were, somewhat unique and somewhat new and driven by the pandemic situation. So we are seeing a big increase in that.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we got a few minutes here, about 7. Before we wrap up, and if we can get to any other questions, I do want to quickly touch on the fact that just everything is changing so fast. There's so much going on, as everyone knows, from sports memorabilia, which was just a question that popped up, to betting, to live rights, to people going back to venues, right? It's just crazy. So what do you both think in your various positions, the next 3 to 5 years, which who knows what's going to change, right? It might be tenfold different from now, but what your businesses are going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, number one for us is like getting fans back on site. That I think that's our priority, as long as we can be done safely. We definitely want fans back on site. I know I saw a question in here, if with so many different consumption opportunities, will fans return? I think, at least for me, I think what I've discovered in this downtime is I really want to be around people, at a sporting event, a concert, or a movie theater. And that those experience, I think it's really put a finer point of how unique those experiences are. So I think coming out of this, hopefully later this year, I think we're going to see a big push in engagement. But I also think it means that because everybody's been home consuming the sport, I think making sure that fans can consume the sport as well as they can at home on site is going to be very important for us, which has all kinds of interesting challenges on a wide property. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I think you're going to see probably a big combination of trying to get this fan interactivity and fan engagement across both at the event and here. And it's something we've all been trying to tackle, but I think it's just going to be a lot more enhanced for us as we move forward.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years. I'm busy thinking about the next 3 to 5 months, to be honest with you. Who knows where that'll go. But 3 to 5 years, I'm with Scott, obviously, live event and live experience. I think I would like to see us almost stop using the word digital. I'm done with it. It's like digital should be part of everything. So I think folks realizing from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, from an event engagements perspective, digital is part of everything. It should all come together and be a holistic experience. So I think we're going to see a much bigger demand for that, which means from our perspective as a company, we're going to have to think in terms of building platforms that are adaptable in a very quick manner. So that they've got to be able to respond very quickly. They've got to be resilient like they always have. But we have to have platforms that can adapt and embrace new concepts, new directions. Who knows what's coming out of the pile? And frankly, we're very thankful for the players like Amazon, Web Services, Microsoft, Oracle, and others who are building these wonderful kind of cloud environments well, we can stand up and bring down things rather quickly because it enables us to build platforms that can be adaptable and adjust. So I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see how AR, VR fits into this, how Scott's audience for his events goes from a couple of 100,000 to several million through augmented and virtual reality. And they're all experiencing that. I think it's extremely exciting for the industry, by the way. Tremendous.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. And Scott just got his DoorDash right on time, right? So
working it from home, it was Amazon dropping something off at the door.
Yeah, it's probably Amazon dropping something off.
So,
Perfect timing. Still watching this
just like,
drop
oh, I
shipping.
was so close. I was so close.
So
to
close.
To
I
the
love
end of
it.
the hour.
I love it. That's great. Well, there's another interesting question here. I think it goes to content, and I would love to finish this off and just this integrated nature of this. The story around Whoop and the PGA Tour, obviously, kind of like started, this whole broad discussion around biometrics and not only what it's doing for athletes, but how it's for normal people. And you guys ended up signing a deal with them, right? I think Daytona 500, we saw they were showing the heartbeat of the athlete or the drivers on during crashes, things like that. Is that next? Is that what you guys are looking at? Is there a desire for that in the fan council side of things, like beyond the traditional advanced statistics? And obviously, as things have shifted, they've changed so much, right? Like it really has changed. But is that the next layer of type of broadcast integration that you guys potentially are working on, or clients are asking for, or in your case, Scott, thinking about executing on?
Yeah, well, that's I've been wearing a Whoop since a year ago when we started discussions with Willamette and the team, and it's a really great device. And so, yeah, we did sign a partnership with them. We are working on some content that will start to come out. That we actually did some experimentation with them early on about, here's what John Rahm's heartbeat looks like when he sank a great big putt last year, and a few others. So we're working on how to get all of that out. I think that what you point out, though, it points to live. I hate saying this because I'll say it this way because it's not live video, but live data streaming experiences are absolutely the heart of what we're doing. And to the point that Phil makes is that, and I didn't say this earlier, but like AI and ML is going to play such a huge role in content creation. It's already significant, role for us. So and it will, once we can do that, it'll allow us to get devices like this out, and it'll allow you to be able to sit there and see the reaction from a player the minute they sink a putt. And that'll be, it could be heart rate data. It could be, crowd noise data. You may want to look at the heart rates of all your friends that are on the same, watching party for the event, just for fun, if that's what you want to do. So there's a huge opportunity for live streaming data, but it's all going to be built on this backbone of AI and ML that, we can't hire enough. We could never hire enough people to create those experiences. So now it's really on the back of these frameworks, and it's really going to open up some really fascinating and I think exciting content areas for us.
Yeah, I would emphasize that with the especially the automated content production work that we've done together, and is going to continue. And I think as we move to 5G environments, as we move to those edge processors getting much more powerful on the individual devices, I think we're going to see some tremendous kind of ultra real-time data and experiences created and shared. And I think it helps a lot of the tier 2 and tier 3 properties that maybe don't have those large production budgets. So we're seeing remote production capabilities now. Everybody's having to go to a remote production situation. But for those lesser known properties, they're now able to do remote production, and not only remote produce it, but automatically take that content and create stories out of it and create experiences that go all the way through to a personalized experience for an individual. And I think it goes back to your 3 to 5 year thing, Adam. It's going to rip that wide open. It's going to be a lot of fun playing in that space.
Awesome. Well, as they always say, time flies when you're having fun, and we're already up against the hour. Really appreciate both Phil and Scott for jumping on here, and for everyone joining in on the chat. It was lively. You had a bunch of great questions. Really appreciate that. And then obviously IX.co for helping us put this on and sponsoring it. Really excited about everything. But yeah, so if anyone missed it or want to go back and look at it, this will all be delivered to your email within the next hour or so you guys can go back and watch it if you want to take away any takeaways. But again, really appreciate Phil and Scott for joining us, and for everyone else for jumping on and spending the last hour of their afternoon with us. So thanks again for everyone. Stay safe, and hopefully all those sporting events you guys put in the list and in the chat, we're a few months away from it. So hopefully that's where we're headed. But I really appreciate everything, guys, and thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Bye-bye, everybody.